So good news, everyone. There was a story going around earlier this week that had everybody panicked of a bacon shortage out there, a bacon shortage. And I know you were all very concerned, you were all very worried, but it turns out that that is not true. There is not a bacon shortage. It was kind of misleading. There was some shortage in the reserves, the frozen reserves, I guess, a little bit less. Prices might go up a little bit, but not really a shortage. So everybody calm down. Everyone relax. There's not a bacon shortage. That would be beyond reason.
Back away from the ledge.
Especially before the Super Bowl. Don't worry. Don't worry. If you have bacon on your burgers at the Super Bowl, it will be there. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. And you probably need a voice of reason this week because, I mean, it started off really well. It started off so well. So many good stories out there. So many good things out there. And it ended, well, beyond reason. I mean, nothing better way to describe it. By the way, Tom Benson, that was Tom Benson talking in there. He is producing. We were on 6 to 8 p.m. tonight. You can give us a call at 407-916-5400 or text to 23680. So the first thing that I want to talk about today, and there's two angles to this, but the riots, the violence, the protests at the universities that we've seen, and this isn't the first time it's happened, but it got a lot of attention when, and, you know, it actually, there was violence after Trump's inauguration, you know, but Milo Yiannopoulos, who I had not really known before this, was supposed to speak at UC Berkeley, and he was supposed to speak there. Okay, it's called freedom of speech. If you disagree with them, fine. You want to protest, fine. But there were some people out there, they probably were outsiders, probably radical communists or anarchists, who decided to turn things violent, who decided to burn things, who decided to break windows. And they had to cancel the speech. They had to evacuate Milo. And I just think about this, and it's just such a bad precedent, such a bad direction we're going to. But it's not surprising, necessarily, with how divided we are. I think most liberals out there probably wouldn't do stuff like that. But a lot more of them are. And if they're not doing stuff like that, they're at least on the streets protesting everything. Before Trump has even done anything, they decided, this is what we do now. We go on the streets and we protest everything. Now I'll have some people probably tell me, oh, the Tea Party did the same thing. The Tea Party did the same thing. Not really. You're right. The Tea Party did protest things, have rallies at first. But really, the Tea Party became more of a rallying cry to organize. And that's what happened. They became more politically active. They became more organized. They became more about spreading the message. And all the rallies, the Tea Party rallies I saw, were very peaceful, very organized, prepared ahead of time. You would not fear for your lives or fear for your property at a Tea Party rally. But you seem to be doing that on college campuses. And what they're trying to do, what these people are trying to do, and I'm talking to the left here. I want to give the left advice here. They are trying to take over anything you're doing, your movement, and they are trying to create chaos. Well, you're like, that's obvious. Of course they're trying to create chaos, but stick with me for a minute. They're trying to hijack your movement. They're trying to take it in a very dark direction. And what they want is a response from the other side. What they want is a response. There are people out there, and there's a mindset out there in college campuses. I really didn't have this experience at UCF per se, but I guess it's out there at some other college campuses where freedom of speech isn't allowed. If there's something that is offensive, if there's something that's hateful, it shouldn't be allowed. Okay, that makes no sense in a world of freedom of speech, but that's where we are. But so they protest everything. It shouldn't be allowed. Why are you here? Protest. And they have the right to do that, I guess. But there are others who are hijacking your movement and turning it in a very violent, dangerous direction. And it's pretty scary Because what they want is to destroy. What they want is probably civil war. And they will continue to do this. Why am I telling this to the left? This is really more advice to the left. You have to speak out against those in your movement that are doing this. I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear that, well, they're not really liberals. I don't want to hear any of that. And some have done this, and that's good. The Berkeley campus actually did come out and say, we do not support any acts of violence, but they probably could have done better in quelling the violence. But I want to tell you this because you must speak out against those that are doing this if you're on the left. Because they are hijacking your movement, and they are taking it in a very dangerous direction. What they want, what everybody wants in today's world, I've noticed, is the philosophy of fight fire with fire. That's what everybody on both sides wants. I'm going to get to my side, how the conservatives and libertarians and the right should respond. I'm going to get to that because if I'm telling the left to speak out against the cancer in their side, I'm going to have to speak out against the cancer in my side as well. And I'm not afraid to do that. It will make me unpopular for some people, but I'm not afraid to do that. It's like radical Islam. We complain about Muslims, good Muslims, not speaking out against the radicals. And we say you must speak out against the radicals in your movement. Well, it has to be the same on the left, and it has to be the same on the right as well. You must do it. Now, let's get into a little bit of the responses to this. We have some audio here. Milo to put out a YouTube video shortly after this from his hotel room. And this is actually what he said in response to this, and I think he's mostly right.
The feminist, Black Lives Matter, Antifa left, the hard left, which has become so utterly antithetical to free speech in the last few years, is taking a turn post-Trump's election where they simply will not allow any speaker on campus, even somebody as silly and harmless and gay as me, to have their voice heard. They won't allow students to listen to differing points of view. They're absolutely petrified by alternative visions of how the world ought to look, and people with arguments and fact and reason that don't conform to the crazy social justice left vision of the universe.
So Milo is coming off the hero in this. Milo is coming off the reasonable one in this. He is winning the argument now. The left, anybody who appreciates these riots, say we have to do stuff like this because Trump's a Nazi or he's the next Hitler and we might need to have violence to get him out of power because what he's doing is so crazy. All you're doing when you talk like that and you become violent and you protest everything that Trump does and everything that the right does, all you're doing is helping people like Milo. You're helping build them up. I didn't really know who Milo was. I've seen him a couple times until today. Until I started really looking into his videos, until I started reading what he has said in the past. I didn't know really. I never heard him speak anywhere. But now I know him, and a lot of people know him, and he is reveling in this. I'm telling you, he's reveling in this. He is the winner in this, and he hopes that more of this happens because it will build him up. Now, another person who had a good response to this, actually, as well, is Ben Shapiro, because he's had the same thing happen to him at campuses. Conservative Ben Shapiro, he was on Fox News, and this is what he said about it.
I do think that there's a mentality that's being inculcated on a lot of college campuses, and I speak at 20, 25, 30 of these a year. There's a mentality that suggests that speech that you don't like is some sort of violence. It's a microaggression to be met with macroaggression. And so when you start with the premise it's okay to punch Nazis, and then you say everyone's a Nazi, and everyone who offends you is a Nazi, then pretty soon it's pretty easy to see how things break down. And I mean, that's why I've had riots against me at Cal State Los Angeles. We had a near riot at Penn State last year. It's becoming a lot less uncommon than you would hope it would be, certainly.
And you think that's radical. Oh, people aren't saying you should punch people in the face. I believe I actually heard that exact sentence at the SAG Awards by one of the actors of Stranger Things. I actually think I heard him say that very thing. We're going to punch people in the face that do this. And you're saying, well, Trump said the same thing. I know, and I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to our side. But I'm trying to educate the left here. I'm trying to actually help you out. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. But I don't like violence. I don't want civil war. I don't hate people on the other side. I'm trying to give you advice that you must speak out against this. and really speak out against this, or it's going to grow and you're going to be sucked up into it and you're going to justify it because they're justifying it. And people on the left right now are justifying it. People like Sarah Silverman are justifying it. And the whole reason they're doing this is it's the whole, we have to fight fire with fire. Trump's a fire, we have to fight fire with fire. We need violence. Trump's a Nazi, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, the whole term fight fire with fire, that could just create more fire. Am I just wrong on that? Do we always have to fight fire with fire? Because it could create more fire and more problems. What do you guys think? 407-916-5400. And let's go to a phone call here who has a comment on this. Real quick, Otto in Orlando. Otto, what do you think about all this?
I think you're right that both sides need to speak up against violence that's on their side. But I think it's not that those college kids on the left want total anarchy.
You're right, and I don't think they do. I think this is being hijacked by radicals.
And I think it's more of, you got these young kids on these campus, right? Uh-huh. They're very young. They're very ideological. And what happens is that they're not at that adult phase yet where they know how to creatively use an outlet to get what they want, their point across.
Maybe. So I don't remember doing this when I was in college.
Violent. I know, but it turns violent. Unlike, say, like a Tea Party rally. Most of those people at Tea Party rallies were older people. You can agree with that. And so older people, they're older, they're more calm, they're not more susceptible to that type of behavior. So I don't think is that you have these radicals out there purposely doing this to make the left, seem super violent. I just think that what it is you have two different types of people. You have the very young and naive and, hormones built up and bent up frustration, and they don't know how to release it. And so they get into a mob mentality where somebody does something, then they start following. Next thing you know, everybody's starting a fire, and it gets way out of hand.
Yeah. Although I don't think most of the students were doing it. I think a lot of them were outsiders, and we're also in the age of
exactly. And you're right. Whenever there's any type of protest, you will have some people to come in and start violence just to start violence.
Yeah, not always, but yes.
You're absolutely right in that both sides, left, right. I'm a moderate independent. Even moderate independents we all need to, across the board, rebuke violence.
Right. And actually, and I appreciate your call, Otto, I would even take it farther. Not just rebuke violence, but rebuke hate, if that makes sense. I would take it farther than rebuking violence. I would talk about rebuking hate. We have another comment on. I'm going to take this real quick before we take a break. Doc in Orlando, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I just think it's worth reviewing. Is it possible that the philosophy of progressivism inherently leads to violence? Once you start saying that I know what's right to take whose stuff and to give to whom, why not by force?
That's an interesting point. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that. You have an interesting point, though, because the political correctness, the microaggressions, the safe spaces is going to lead to stuff like this, because they have been told now that speech that is hatred towards you is the same as violence. So when they react in violence, they think they're just, fighting fire with fire, even though it's not the same. We should be able to battle ideas without violence and without rioting and even without protesting. Why do we have to protest everything? But I understand what you're saying.
Achieved their goals in the past. I mean, even, strikes and union violence.
That's true. That's a good point. Violence has worked sometimes in the past, but usually in the long run, it's not as effective. So how should we respond then? How should we on the right respond to this? Really, how should we on the right respond to this? Because there are two theories on that. And we'll get to that next. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your voice of reason, trying to be your voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason, Michael Yaffee, and we will be right back.
You want to listen to Beyond Reason Radio live on your smartphone? Download the Beyond Reason Radio app now. Available in the Google Play or Apple App Stores. The voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason is back now.
So I'm just looking at the screen right now, and I'm watching Fox, and they're talking about how some want to protest the Emmys because of what actors have been saying about Trump. This is what I'm talking about. This is what we do now. I talked about it earlier this week, too. This is what we do. We protest everything, and it gets out of hand, I think. I don't like what they're saying, but do we have to go protest the Emmys? We ain't got nothing better to do? I know. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on that. But how this brings the question. By the way, I'm Michael Yaffee. If you don't know who this is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. If you don't know who I am, it's first time ever listening to me. I also co-host Good Morning Orlando, which plays on this station, and I co-host the Florida Roundtable. And by the way, I would listen to this week's Florida Roundtable. It plays on like a bunch of stations over the weekend. It plays on this station Sunday nights at 8. And it's also on our website, 1025wfla.com. Go listen to this week's Florida Roundtable because we interviewed a really interesting guest, a really interesting economist who talked about money and money supply and the history of money and monetary policy. And it was really interesting. So I would definitely check that out on the website. I'll post it on my social media later as well. But here's the question. You can text it to 368-047-916-5400. How should we respond to this? How should we respond to the left? Because this is what I hear a lot, especially when it comes to Trump. They love Trump. People love Trump because he's willing to fight back. I hear it all the time. He's willing to fight back. He doesn't take it. He counterpunches no matter what. And it's great. I love it. And I'm not necessarily against defending yourself or being on offense politically in the marketplace of ideas. I'm not necessarily against that. But I think we kind of get to an extreme where we go farther and we fight back with hate. So we hate and then we fight back with hate. They call us names and they play identity politics, so we think it's best to fight back by being personal and playing identity politics. This is a movement I've seen. It's mostly in the alt-right and the Trump and a lot of the Trump supporters, not all of them, obviously, probably not most of them, but a sect of them. And the reason I'm bringing this up is this whole protest at Berkeley was about Milo Yiannopoulos. He's a Breitbart writer. He's gay. He's people have called him the alt-right. He's kind of been wishy-washy on if he really is. But he is known for being controversial. He is known for throwing punches. He is known for creating, for being rude, being brash, calling people names. And I went and I watched some of his stuff today. I watched some of his speeches. I watched some of his videos. I read some of his stuff. And I can tell you what he does more than anything is he attacks the other side. That is most of his shtick. That is most of what he does. He attacks the other side, and sometimes very personally. And there was an ABC interview after because he was banned from Twitter for attacking the Ghostbuster actress. And yeah, banned for life. Yes. And ABC News interviewed him. And by the way, I don't actually disagree with everything he says. There was a lot of stuff he said in his terms of his philosophy, his political philosophy, that I agreed with. But he takes it to another level. And he admits he does. And he thinks this is what we should be doing. And so there was an ABC News interview. It was very hostile. And that kind of bothered me, too, that the journalist was really hostile towards him. I mean, I've seen journalists nicer to Saddam Hussein and Kim Jong-il or Un than they were to him, who have, a lot worse human beings. But that being said, this is one thing he said in the interview that I found very interesting, and I think it wraps up his philosophy. This is what he said.
With my name-calling and with my provocation and with my bad manners, I think actually America's had enough of nice manners. If my rudeness creates conversation, my rudeness provokes people into, first of all, saying, oh, what a monster, blah, 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 and then 20% of people start talking about what I was actually saying, I will consider my career to have been a terrific success.
So that pretty much sums it up. He admits he's rude, and he has said other times that he's a troll and thinks we need more trolls. He has said that if he's mean to people, it's because they deserve it. In fact, one time somebody called him an anti-Semite or something on Twitter, and he tweeted back with Nazi swastikas. That's kind of how he fights back. And it's the whole philosophy that I've been talking about here of fight fire with fire. If they're hating you, you hate them 10 times more. If they call you names, you call them 10 more names. And it's so appealing. And let me tell you something. It's also very easy. People like him, there are people that like him, and there's other people out there who are like him. They like to give off the persona that they're brave for what they're doing. They like that, when these riots happened at Berkeley where he was going to speak, I'm telling you, he loves it. I mean, if I had protests outside the station right now, it would help my career tremendously. It would. I mean, it would help my career tremendously. If I was that kind of person who wanted to just create controversy and make people protest me, I mean, my ratings would skyrocket, my popularity would skyrocket. It would help my career tremendously. It's actually very easy. As someone who's been in this business for a little while now, it is very, very easy to be the guy who just throws bombs, because that's his philosophy. He even says, he's basically saying there, if you throw a bomb, and yes, he's not meaning this literally, but think about it. If you take on that philosophy, you could throw a bomb into a building, and yeah, it might hurt some people and destroy the building, but at least I started the conversation. And if 20% of people actually understood why I threw the bomb, and it started the conversation, then I've succeeded. Is that really success? Is that really what we want? No, I don't believe so, because to me, it just creates more chaos. It creates more fire. That is not courageous. It is actually, in my opinion, it is more courageous to do the opposite. And I'm going to tell you more about my advice. How do you respond to this? Because I'm telling you, I see it every day on social media. I see it everywhere. And I see it on my side. But I see it on the other side, and I see this hatred towards one another, and I see the wanting to just punch them in the face. Trump said, if you punch a protester in the face, I'll pay your legal bills. Remember when he said that? And we said, yeah, fight back. They would do that to us. I'm telling you, this is not good. It just creates more chaos. It's not going to solve your problems. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. I'm going to get more into this next. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. This is Beyond Reason Radio. We'll be right back.
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes. This is Orlando's Smart Talk Radio. Beyond Reason Radio continues now.
By the way, this is Michael Yaffee, and we're going to be on until 8 p.m. tonight. We have a lot more to get to. I'm going to give my take on Trump's comment at the prayer breakfast. There's some news about Obamacare that kind of concerns me. We might get into the Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update, which we haven't done in a little while, and maybe a news segment about what makes me laugh, because maybe we need to laugh. Somebody said I should call it What Makes Yaffee Laffy.
Yes, Yaffee Laffy. There you go.
There we go. Maybe at least they'd get my name right. Laffy, Yaffee, Y-A-F-F-E-E, not Yappy. I'm just saying. But I wanted to just wrap up what I was talking about with how the right should respond to this. And really, that's what concerns me the most. I guess because I'm a part of the conservative movement. I'm a conservative. I'm a limited government guy. So I can't control as much as what the left does, but I would like to speak out against the cancer in my own side. And I gave the example of radical Islam. Now, obviously, that's a way extreme example, but we often talk about how good Muslims should speak out against the radicals. And I thought to myself, because there are people who are afraid to do that because they think you're just insulting all Muslims. You're just insulting all Muslims. And that's not true. And I thought about this, if Christianity had a radical sect that was causing mass terrorism like that, would I speak out against it? And I started thinking about it, and I think I would. Because honestly, I speak out against wrong things in the Christian side now. Those who are corrupting Christianity. I speak out against that all the time. Not as much as I used to, because I'm more into politics now. But one of my favorite preachers out there is John MacArthur. And John MacArthur, he spends a lot of time preaching the truth, but he also calls out those who are in Christianity, in churches, who are not speaking the truth. And I think you have to do that. So how should we respond? Should we fight fire with fire? Somebody texted and said, wasn't it their leader of the left, Obama, that said you go to a fist fight? If you go to a fist fight, bring a knife. If they bring a knife, bring a gun, etc. That old saying. I believe he did say that once.
Yeah, but he was wearing mom jeans when he said it. That's the problem. You can't take it.
It's rhetorical, obviously. He didn't mean literally guns. Sure. And Joe Behar said something similar this week as well. And eventually, if everyone's just bringing guns, we're just all dead.
Sounds like Chicago.
So if everyone's just shooting at each other, eventually we just, have a war. And I don't want that. See, I think it's more courageous, and I really, really believe this, to fight back without hate. I'm not saying you shouldn't fight back at all. You can criticize them based on facts, based on philosophy, based on reason. But there are some who think because they do it to us that you must do personal attacks. You must hit below the belt, kind of, so to speak. And maybe even protest if they protest. And maybe even punch them in the face if they punch you in the face. And a lot of people like Milo Yiannopoulos, who's an alt-right, and a lot of other alt-right people, they will give off the image that they are being courageous by doing that. By speaking what others are thinking. By fighting back, they are courageous. And I'm telling you, they're not. I'm telling you, it's extremely easy what they're doing. It is so tempting as someone behind a microphone like this to just be as controversial as possible, to throw as many bombs as possible, to throw punches and hit back and call names as many times as possible. It's actually a lot easier. When you're controversial, you get a lot of attention in today's world. And when you get a lot of attention in today's world, you can make a lot of money, be really popular, and be successful. Even if a lot of people hate you, there will still be a lot of people that like you because you're being radical. You're being courageous. You're fighting. I think it's more courageous to not. I think it's more courageous to actually fight back with love. Believe it or not. I often go to the Bible when it comes to stuff like this, and I think that's where we should go as well. It's hard not to fight back. It's hard not to just get angry and call them names and maybe even get violent. It's hard not to be that person because you get so angry. Paul in Romans chapter 12, yes, I'm getting a little biblical for you. Sorry, I think this is what we need today. He said in Romans chapter 12, verse 9 through 21, he said, love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. So he's saying right there, don't be lacking in zeal. Don't be lacking in your beliefs. Don't be lacking in your principles, but keep your spiritual fervor in serving the Lord and others. He continues on, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. I'm telling you, this is hard. This is courageous. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Then he continues, do not repay anyone evil for evil, because what happens? You get more evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends. That's Milo's whole philosophy, is revenge. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. If you really want to fight back and be effective in fighting back, do that. And I know sometimes in the short term, it doesn't seem like that works. But in the big picture, trust me, it works. He says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. What is the goal? Is the goal to just win? Is the goal our side to just win? Or is the goal to spread good? To desire what is good? If that's not enough for you, let's see what actually Jesus himself said about this. He said, this is from Matthew chapter 5. You have heard that it was said, eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. Imagine if you actually did that. People say, oh, you can't do that. And I'm not talking about self-defense. I'm not talking about, I'm not saying we should be against self-defense. So when someone slaps you on the cheek, you're not going to die from it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying to protect your life. But he's saying if someone slaps you on the cheek, turn the other cheek. Now, why is it important to do that? Because by doing that, you are getting rid of their power over you. When you get angry, when the left, like they're getting angry and causing riots at someone like Milo Yiannopoulos, they are giving power to him. And it's the same thing if we get angry to the left. We're giving them power. We're fueling the fire. But if you turn the other cheek, you get rid of their power over you. He says, if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. What is he saying there? He's saying you must live for a higher purpose than your selfish needs and things and stuff and pride, because those things can control you, and it gives those other people control over you. He continues on. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? And not even tax collectors doing that? Even the worst of us love those who love them. But he says, and if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. It's tough. You want to be courageous. Don't fight fire with fire. If you want to be bold and to take real bold action, don't fight fire with fire. Fight it with water, the living water, the Holy Spirit. Fight it with love. That will be more effective. Now, all you have to do is look at, you can look at Nazi Germany, for instance, and they did win from violence, but it didn't last as long. Eventually, it didn't last forever. But what did last long? Well, Martin Luther King lasted long. Gandhi was effective in that. And who has been more effective in history, Hitler or Jesus? Who has had more of an impact to history? Those who create violence and hatred, or those who create love and are willing to sacrifice even themselves for others? Trust me. Don't give people control over you. Don't let them control you and turn you towards hatred. Fight back with love. All right, this is Beyond Reason Radio. I just got that off my chest today. I feel a lot better. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Download the iHeartRadio app and catch the Beyond Reason Radio podcast. The conscience in your ear telling you the difference between right and wrong. Yaffee is back on the air.
So, I'm really not happy with that groundhog. Punxsutawney Phil. I'm not happy with it. Although it's warm today, and I guess it's supposed to be warm next week, so maybe he was wrong. I'm just not a fan of the cold. But he said there's going to be more winter. I'm not.
Well, that's good for us.
More winter?
Yeah, because the people up north get away from the winter. They come down here, spend their money, honey.
But I don't want to be cold.
Well, it's not. Hey, there's a big difference between 35 degrees as a daily high and our morning low of 50. I'll tell you.
I know. I'm such a Floridian. So we should not protest the groundhog?
No.
No, not my groundhog.
The groundhog is everybody's groundhog.
Hashtag not my. We saw a meme on Facebook earlier. It said we should protest the groundhog. It said a hashtag not my groundhog. I'm sorry, I thought that was hilarious. By the way, if you ever want to laugh on Facebook, just watch animal videos. Anytime I need to feel better, I end up watching like videos of cats and doing weird stuff, and I don't know, any weird animals. There was a video out there of a sloth petting a cat. He had like a cat, and the cat looked so annoyed.
Yeah.
And the sloth had these long
cats are easily annoyed.
He was cuddling with this cat.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why I think that's so funny. It was just so funny. Okay, I heard this earlier this week, and this is such a great example of how crazy our politics has become. I mean, it's just become crazy on both sides. There was especially when dealing with Trump, that people don't know what to do with him. They just don't know what to do with him. But there was a Columbia University professor of Arab Studies. He warned, this is Rashid Khalidi, he warned of Israel, supporters of Israel would infest President Trump's administration. Infest it. Using a verb that calls to mind anti-Jewish stereotypes of vermin. He's probably not happy with Jews. He's probably saying Jews will infest his administration. They'll be so pro-Zionist. Okay, so you have that. Radicals complaining that Trump is too pro-Israel. And then, earlier this week, it was Holocaust Remembrance. And Trump, someone just texted something really funny. I'll get to it in a sec. And Trump made a statement. There was a statement by Trump, but it didn't mention Jews. It mentioned all the victims of the Holocaust and didn't mention Jews specifically. And he got responses that it was anti-Semitic that he didn't do that. So in like a week of each other, you have one person saying Jews are infesting the Trump administration. And then in the same week, you have people calling Trump anti-Semitic because he didn't say Jews when he was talking about the Holocaust. He just said victims.
So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
To me, it was a great example of how crazy our politics has come. So what is it? And you know what? There was another article out there who from the Daily News was talking about Trump's prayer at the prayer breakfast. So maybe I'll get to this later in the show. But it said that Trump is actually a religious fanatic who wants a theocracy in America. And it was dead serious about this because he wants to get rid of the Johnson Amendment. So I hear all the time that Trump's not a Christian, not Christian-like at all, Christ-like, and sometimes he's not, I'll be honest. But then all of a sudden now I hear from some people that he's too Christian, a religious fanatic, and wants a theocracy in America. What is happening? To be honest, I don't think Trump is religious at all. I don't think he really cares that much either way, to be honest. Just like when people called Obama a Muslim, I don't think he was Muslim. I don't think he was religious.
Simon and Garfunkel hit it on the nail on the head in one of their songs where they say people hear what they want to hear and forget all the rest. And that's basically the problem.
I think that there's so much truth to that, especially in the past year or so, that people, they hear what they want to hear. You know, it's like when I was talking about, after the inauguration, how many leftists were saying it was Nazi-like. And it was like, okay, what? He said America first, so that means he's Nazi-like. And that goes to this, our politics is just so, beyond reason. It's so crazy. So, Tom Benson, I just got called out on the text line.
Uh-oh.
Because I was complaining about the cold weather. And somebody says, referring to me earlier in the show.
Sure.
Fighting the cold weather is also a good exercise in self-discipline. He says ignoring the cold weather gives you control over it.
Yes.
So I should not fight back against the cold weather. I should ignore it because I'm letting the cold weather have control over me.
Yes. Put on those flannel jammies and press on.
So that was a good thing he pointed out to me, I guess. I thought that was pretty funny. All right, we are almost done with this hour, but we have one more hour to go. In the next hour, there's a couple things I want to address. I want to address the good and bad from Trump's prayer breakfast speech and the response to it. And some of it is definitely beyond reason, what has happened. And we have to kind of, put the shoe on the other foot. If it was Obama saying some of the stuff, how would we have reacted? Another thing I want to talk about is Obamacare, what the Republicans are kind of caving on Obamacare. They want to call it, they don't want to repeal and replace anymore. They want to repair. That's the new slogan by Republicans. We have to repair Obamacare. Maybe I'll get into that daily news piece when it comes to what it called Trump a religious fanatic, which I couldn't get that. By the way, Trump's got some more executive orders. Some of his executive orders are really good, but I'm hoping we'll actually get Congress to pass laws eventually, and he'll sign them. That would be good. Isn't that usually how it works? I would kind of prefer that very soon, but he had another executive order. That's actually pretty good, and he talked about another one that's coming up soon, and we'll get into all of that. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We have one more hour to go. If you want to give us a call, you can. 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. Somebody commented that Trump can't even pronounce theocracy. That's a little mean, I think. That's a little mean. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back. I look inside of myself. Will I find some kind of conviction? Trump was doing so good this week. His approval rating has actually gone up a little bit. A great pick for Supreme Court. We're uniting the Republican Party, getting rid of regulations, doing some really good things. More people starting to like him. And then, like he does a lot, he opens his mouth. This time it was his mouth. Sometimes it's through Twitter. But then he opened his mouth at the National Prayer Breakfast. And it is Beyond Reason. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. By the way, we have Tom Benson producing. We are on for one more hour. If you miss any of the show, make sure to download the Beyond Reason Radio app at the Google Play or Apple App Store. You can catch all the podcasts and even the live show sometimes on the Beyond Reason Radio app. By the way, we are on iHeartRadio as well. All my podcasts are on iHeartRadio, so you can find that there as well, or just beyondreasonradio.com. So I actually posted something on Facebook about this, and I got some heat. I got some agreements, and I got some heat for it. But Trump, at the National Prayer Breakfast, decided to go off on a little tangent because his ego, which I understand, it's kind of part of his thing. People kind of like his ego. People, he's not a man of humility, really. By the way, another thing Trump did that was good this week is he visited the soldier, the remains of the soldier, and honored him as he was returned back of the Navy SEAL. But then at the National Prayer Breakfast, he says this.
I had to leave the show. That's when I knew for sure I was doing it. And they hired a big movie star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to take my place. And we know how that turned out. The ratings went right down the tubes. It's been a total disaster. And Mark will never, ever bet against Trump again. And I want to just pray for Arnold, if we can, for those ratings, okay?
If Obama did something like that and said something as narcissistic as that during the National Prayer Breakfast, how would you all react? Think about it. I think you would be outraged. I think, why is this narcissist bringing this into the National Prayer Breakfast? Does he show no humility for God? You would think that one place Trump would show some humility. And I get it. Oh, well, he's just joking. Lighten up, Mike. Sorry, I just believe, I'm not against jokes and things like that, but I just believe that there is a time and a place to start bragging about your show and the ratings of your show. He can't help it. So he actually said a lot of good things. He actually said a lot of good things at this prayer breakfast, but most people have no idea because he opened his mouth at the beginning, and that's what got all the I swear Trump does this on purpose. I swear he does. It's like with the crowd size thing. He could not let that go. He even, during the interview with ABC, he had a picture and he was talking, well, look at the crowd. No, people aren't saying the crowd size already. Look how big. It's like, dude, let it go. But he just has such a hard time showing humility. Such a hard time showing humility. So, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger had to respond to this. Tom Entz, if you could play the Arnold cut for me. He put this out on YouTube, I believe.
Hey, Donald, I have a great idea. Why don't we switch jobs? You take over TV because you're such an expert in ratings, and I take over your job. And then people can finally sleep comfortably again.
Okay. So this is where we are with politics and the President of the United States, where he calls out a TV star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, at the National Prayer Breakfast when you're supposed to be talking about prayer and God and maybe show some humility. And then the TV star responds, of course, and makes a joke that he should be president, and then Arnold should go back to TV because everybody would sleep comfortably again. Now, if you're not sleeping comfortably because Trump is in the White House, there's something wrong with you, first off.
It's your pillow.
Yeah.
You don't have the right pillow.
Or the right mattress or something. Yeah, there's something wrong because that's stupid. Really. This is why I just can't. It's like I'm in a crazy world. I just don't understand it. For God's sake, literally, for God's sake, Trump, know your place in certain situations. And people say, well, this is who he is. We should just get used to it. Would you tell that to your kids? You know? If your kids, you take your kid to the grocery store and they're yelling and screaming and, oh, he's not going to change. And you're like, there's a time and the place for that. Or they're running around, throwing things. There's a time and the place for that kid. No. He'll never change. That's just who he is. Let him be a kid. Am I the only one who thinks this? Am I the only one who at least believes that we should still have some state of decorum in this country for certain situations and civility in certain situations? 407-916-5400, or should I just lighten up? Because that's what I'm being told is just to lighten up. That's what Tom Benson shaking his head. I should just lighten up. All right, so let's get to the good of what Trump said. He actually said some pretty good things after that whole thing, which nobody probably heard. But, play cut 2 for me, Tom Benson.
From generation to generation, their vigilance has kept our liberty alive. Our freedom is won by their sacrifice, and our security has been earned with their sweat and blood and tears. God has blessed this land to give us such incredible heroes and patriots. They are very, very special, and we are going to take care of them.
It is refreshing to hear a president talk so positively and boldly about our veterans. I mean, Obama would he never really did that. Not like that. But it was great. It was actually really good. It was actually really good. That time he showed some humility, which is good. I think in a situation like that, you should. Okay, play the next cut for me, Tom Benson.
We are all united by our faith in our Creator and our firm knowledge that we are all equal in His eyes. We are not just flesh and bone and blood. We are human beings with souls. Our republic was formed on the basis that freedom is not a gift from government, but that freedom is a gift from God.
That was great. That was really great. That he's right there, basically. That our liberties do not come from government. They come from our Creator. Our rights come from our Creator. That is what our founding was really all about. Was about human, natural, God-given rights. And now we think rights include health care, housing, time off of work, maternity leave.
Free iPhones.
Free phones. We think these are rights. Now, that's no. Please stop with that. No, it was meant to be the government to protect our rights, our actual natural God-given rights. And that was the only role of government, not to be our babysitter, or our nanny, or our father, or our mother, but to just protect our rights. So there was some good and bad there, obviously. I guess I'm the only one who thinks Trump should just lay off some of the narcissism while he's at the National Prayer Breakfast. Tom, stop looking at me like that.
Well, I was just going to mention that you played two good cuts and one bad, so I think that shows you the balance of.
This is true.
Comment.
I think I'm pretty balanced.
Yeah,
I think I am. Right. I'm the voice of reason, is what I say. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. A lot more to get to. We'll get into maybe later in the show. We should get into a Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update. I have not looked at his Twitter in a while. I always like to be surprised when we do that segment. So we'll get to that and much more. It's Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Listen to the latest episodes of Beyond Reason. Download the podcast at Spreaker.com. The place where we talk faith, culture, and politics. Beyond Reason Radio continues.
So someone commented on Facebook. Robert commented on Facebook. I'm on Facebook Live right now. You can send me a friend request on Facebook. Michael Yaffee, to search Michael Yaffee, send me a friend request, and I will accept it, or you can like us at Beyond Reason Radio. So someone said on Facebook that they are listening and watching from Illinois. So, hi. We are now nationwide. That is right. The voice of reason is now nationwide. So I appreciate you listening. I hope you're in a safe part of Illinois. Just saying. So speaking of the National Prayer Breakfast, it brings up the topic religious freedom. He talked about, in the speech, he talked about repealing the Johnson Amendment and all that stuff. I don't want to get too much into that. We talked about that on the morning show a lot. But he is also Donald Trump is also planning an executive order to cement religious freedom. Now, it hasn't been put out yet. He's planning on doing it. And it's getting a lot of criticism from the LGBT community and all this stuff, saying it's just discrimination. And this is what's supposed to be in what the executive order would do that Trump is putting out. It's supposed to, I'm guessing probably next week. It's from the Daily Signal. It says it tells the entire federal government to respect federal statutes and Supreme Court decisions that make clear the free exercise of religion applies to all people of all faiths in all places and at all times. that is not merely the freedom to worship, but, it's freedom to practice your religion. It's a little sad that we have to put this in executive order. I thought we were a free country. I don't know. You should be able to practice your religion and not be forced to not, silenced and not practice your religion in public spaces. And it's just something. Okay. Next thing it will do, it notes that religious organizations include all organizations operated by religious principles, not just houses of worship or charities. And it follows the Religious Freedom Restoration Act in saying that religious exercise includes all aspects of religious observance and practice, not just those absolutely required by faith. And what a lot of this is about is if you're like a Christian business or a Christian charity or a Christian organization or even a Christian school, that even in those places you should be able to practice your religion freely and not be forced to do certain things that are against your religion. Like I said, I thought we were, a free country and we should probably do that anyway. And another thing, there's another thing it would do. A lot of this seems like common sense, but lately, it's really not. Because if you are practicing your religion, like Hobby Lobby didn't want to provide, it was against their religion to provide free contraception to certain types of contraception, but free contraception to their employees, and they should be able to do that. If you don't like it, don't work there. But it's a free country. They should be able to do that. But anyway, another thing that it does, it instructs all agencies of the federal government to the greatest extent practicable and permitted by law to reasonably accommodate the religion of federal employees as required by Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. It's pretty self-explanatory. Another thing it does, it instructs the Secretaries of Health and Human Services, Labor, and Treasury to finally grant relief to the Little Sisters of the Poor and others who weren't exempted from the Obamacare I'm in the broadcasting business and I can't say this word. Abortifacient and contraception mandate. It instructs the Secretary of Health and Human Services to ensure that all citizens have the ability to purchase health care plans through Obamacare that do not cover abortion or subsidized plans that do. It adopts the Russell Amendment and instructs all agencies of the federal government to provide protections and exemptions consistent with the Civil Rights Act and Americans with Disability Act. It instructs the Secretary of the Treasury to ensure that it does not revoke nonprofit tax status because of religious organizations. Ordinary religious speech deals with politics. Then that brings up a whole other debate because I've actually talked with some friends about this, and there are some Christian friends that I have that believe that churches should pay taxes, that they should, that it's kind of they are getting the same protections from the government as anybody else, and that they should pay taxes because they're receiving that, and they shouldn't be forced to, not say things they want to say. Now, I think that makes a lot of sense. I also agree with this, even if they do get the tax break, because that's what it is. It's a tax break. It's you keeping your organization keeping more of its money. They keep saying it's it's the same as a subsidy. No, it's not a subsidy. A subsidy is when you're getting government money handed to you. A tax break is you're getting to keep more of it. And one of the reasons you wanted to do that is because it doesn't force the church to give to the government. It keeps that separation between the church and state that leftists say that they want, except when in situations like that. So, but, even if you get a tax break, why should that inhibit you from saying things you believe and sharing things you believe, even if it has to do with politics? Now, I would not want to go to a church where the pastor is telling me who to vote for. That would be silly. I would never want it. That was kind of one reason I went into radio, because I originally wanted to be a pastor, but I decided that I wanted to talk about this stuff as well, culture and politics, and I feel like it's not the role of a pastor to do that on the pulpit. I just don't feel like it's the role. I mean, some things, yes, are moral issues, like abortion. Yes, that is a sin. Homosexuality, yes, according to the church and the Bible, that is a sin. So if they want to preach against that, that's fine. But, if I go to a church and the pastor is saying we need to allow more drilling for oil because it's godly, I'm going to be like, you're dumb, and I'm going to leave. So it depends on the issue. But I think they should be able to. Here's if they don't get a tax break. It's freedom of speech. We either believe in freedom or we don't. All right, next thing. It instructs the secretary, I think I already did that, instructs all agencies of the federal government to refuse to recognize any decision by a federally recognized accrediting body that revokes or denies accreditation to an organization because of such beliefs. Okay, got that. It instructs all agencies that they may not take adverse action against federal employees, contractors, or grantees because of their speech about marriage outside of their employment, contract, or grant, and that agencies shall reasonably accommodate such belief inside of employment, contract, or grant. So basically what that's saying, that if you work for the government, but you believe homosexuality is a sin because your church believes homosexuality is a sin, they shouldn't be able to, fire you because you have those beliefs. So, and this should go, I think a lot of this should go further. That if you're a Christian business, you shouldn't be forced to provide a service like a wedding cake, like a gay wedding cake. That was a whole big issue. You shouldn't be able to be forced to provide a service, because that's kind of a form of speech, if it's against your religious beliefs. Now they say, well, that's discrimination. Well, it kind of is, yes, but we're a free country. There's a part of me, a radical part of me, that thinks we should be able to discriminate. It would be stupid for your business, but we should be able to discriminate. Now, there's another thing. It's also forced speech. If you're making a gay wedding cake, that can also be considered forced speech, which a lot of people don't look into that as well. But I think it seems to me when I'm looking through this, a lot of this seems pretty good. He's keeping his promise that he was going to protect religious freedom. I have no problem with protecting religious freedom. That being said, I think it works the other way as well. So there was, I think it was a Muslim flight attendant who did not want to serve alcohol because of her religious beliefs. But she's a flight attendant, and her job is to serve alcohol. The business fired her. I think they should be able to fire her. It goes both ways. Because that's your job. Don't take a job. It would be like a bartender going into a bar and saying, well, I don't want to serve alcohol because it's against my religious beliefs. You're a bartender. That's your job. So it should work the other way around as well, where the business who doesn't believe in those religious things should be able to fire you if you're not doing the job. But there's a lot of different angles to this. I think for the most part, it seems pretty good. The other thing that I'm annoyed at recently, this is kind of a different topic, but the other thing I'm annoyed at, I don't know if you've noticed this, Tom Benson, as well, but these businesses out there, well, not the businesses, but people that are threatening to boycott all these businesses for political reasons because they don't, like Uber, this whole thing, it's just so stupid.
Yeah, it is. Because
Uber, they were protesting the Muslim ban or whatever, even though it's not really a Muslim ban. And Uber said, we're not gonna price hike. We're not gonna change fares. If Uber drivers want to take people to the airport, they should be able to do it. And taxi drivers were on strike because of it. And then people were saying, Uber supporting Trump because they're doing this. And now we should boycott Uber. And it's just, no, they were not supporting Trump. They were providing their good or service. They were providing their service. That is what their business is supposed to do. That is the role of business, is to provide you a good or service. But we get to this point, and it's gotten even more extreme. It started where, if a CEO or something supports a certain political belief, then they would boycott that business. But now it's gotten to the point where if a CEO doesn't stand up against a political belief, then they have to be boycotted as well.
He's guilty by omission.
Yeah, guilty by omission. Yeah. And I'm thinking, can we get back to the time? It would be so wonderful to get back to the time where we actually went to a business because of what they provided, the good or service they provided to me, and I base it based on the quality of the good or service they provide to me, not based on their political beliefs. Why is this so difficult? Do we have to put politics into everything? And by the way, I was like one of the only people who didn't boycott Target because of their thing. Now, if you didn't want to go in there because you were afraid of the bathrooms, because you were afraid what was going to happen in the bathrooms, that's one thing. But I just don't believe in all these boycotts, because I believe you're going there because they're providing you a good or service. So you go there to use that good or service and base it based on whether you like it or not. That's what you're paying for. It's just, that's kind of how it used to be, I think. I don't know. 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you like Beyond Reason Radio, well, make sure to show it by liking the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio. Your safe space for conservative thought, not for political correctness. Yaffee is back right now.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of truth in a world of lots of not-so-truths. The voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We're going until 8 o'clock, and we have Tom Benton as well. If you missed any of the show, and especially the first hour, because I went on kind of a little rant in the first hour. So if you missed any of the show, catch the podcast of the show. I'll post it after the show. You can catch the podcast anywhere. iHeartRadio, TuneIn, the Beyond Reason Radio app, beyondreasonradio.com, pretty much anywhere podcasts are available. I posted on the WFLA website as well. So I got a text coming in because I was ranting how I wish we would get back to a time where we, went to a business not based on their politics, but based on the good or service they provided to me and whether I liked it. And somebody texted and said we'd have to go back to the Andy Griffith show in Mayberry in the 1950s for that to happen. I think so much of that is probably true. So I'm just annoyed by so much today about our politics today. I'm sorry if that's coming across, but we were talking in the break because we got Fox News, the TV on here, and don't turn on the TV. Stay on the radio, but I'm just pointing this out. You don't want to watch this junk anyways right now. But they're doing a town hall kind of thing. And you were saying it started out very civil.
Right. And it's they're talking about the beginning of the Trump administration, the first few days here, and also, of course, the travel ban and what have you.
Yes.
And they have people from both political aisles on the show.
Okay.
And they all started out by being relatively polite and nice.
Mm-hmm, you should.
Now, going into the hour, they're starting to get a little bit more heated, and everybody wants to make sure their point is made,
Oh, jeez. Tom Benson, I'm just... So it's like a Facebook rant or like a Facebook debate.
Yeah.
And and instead of actually listening to each other or actually discussing things, we just want attention for ourselves.
The thing that bothers me most about postings on Facebook, the postings from people who really don't know what they're talking about. They post these things that just get your blood going.
I know. It's just. Well, and I put on my Facebook, I described a usual Facebook argument. I got a lot of likes. This is the typical Facebook argument. I don't mind Facebook discussions, but usually it's, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. Let me Google an article that proves I'm right while I tear you down and nitpick everything you said.
Well, I don't exactly nitpick you and tear you down, but the person who wrote this article does. Picks you,
well, and it's
down.
like, they just Googled it like 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And they're not really, there's no discussion. They don't care about what's happening. They just want to prove they're right. They just want to win. And they just want to make you look stupid. So you can actually make some decent points, but they will nitpick everything you say, take it out of context, break it all apart, just to prove that, just to try to seem you're stupid and I'm smart. And then this goes on. And then usually it starts off on one subject and it goes to somehow by the end of the thread, it goes to a completely different subject that we never even talked about. So we're like, for instance, we'd be talking about the Trump Muslim ban or something. And then by the end of the debate, we'd be talking about the beauties of socialized medicine, that some people want. I mean, that's what would happen. And then it would be about Christianity and you're not a real, who knows where this stuff goes?
Yeah.
It's just, I'm telling you, it's just
give it a rest, people.
Well, and I think, and I really believe this, I think people are going to start tuning it all out. Like, there's actually a poll here that that we're very divided, that there's about 36%, it was a Gallup poll, 36% of the country is conservative. And that's about stayed the same. But liberals have gone up. So there's let me find the article here. The number of liberals in the country went up 17%. So a bunch of moderates have now become liberal. Now, most of the country is still moderate. They say they're moderate anyway. But it shows, that to me shows exactly where our politics is. That we're one side or the other. And that's why we're becoming more divided. It's just, okay, you know what? Forget about this. Let's have some fun. How about we do the Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update?
I'm a tweet with a bird in a deodorant cage. Tweet is my name, but I don't know my age. I don't have to worry, and that is that. I'm safe in here from that old putty cat.
All right, so the Trump Twitter update, the Tweety Bird intro, of course. How far back should I go? What do you think?
I would start from today and work your way back.
So instead of going back, we start with the newest and then go back.
Correct.
Oh,
as time allows.
We're throwing a curveball today. Okay. This is let's see. The last tweet that Trump did, he did an hour ago. He said we must keep evil. For some reason, he put evil in quotation marks.
Mm-hmm.
Evil out of our country. That's it. We must keep evil out of our country.
No argument here.
I mean, it's a very vague statement. I think he's talking about the immigration ban and all that stuff. Not sure why you put evil in quotation marks. You could probably just say evil without that. But okay, I don't disagree. The next tweet, he says, a new radical Islamic terrorist has just attacked in the Louvre Museum in Paris. Tourists were locked down. France on edge again. Get smart, U.S. That was 11 hours ago, so he hasn't been tweeting very much today.
He's been busy man.
I want more tweets. How can I have this segment if he's not tweeting more? Okay, so the guy had a knife and yelled Allahu Akbar. Paris has they have a real big problem over there. People always say, I've heard all the arguments this week about the Muslim ban. Well, I keep calling them Muslim ban. See, I'm buying into their premise. It's not good.
The travel ban.
The travel ban from certain countries. And they say, well, 0 refugees have committed terrorist attacks in this country. Well, that's actually not true when you count the one at the knife, the guy with the knife. Well, he drove the car in front of people at a campus recently.
Sure. Uh-huh.
And then he had a knife and tried to stab people when he was shot. He was a refugee.
And the guy in Paris was on a travel visa.
Well, but this is what I'm saying is in the U.S. we haven't, but in Europe they have. Europe is at a real problem. And the whole point is so we don't, bring that here. Mm-hmm. We don't want to be like Europe. So I just hate that argument. Okay, next one. Oh, we talked in the first hour, I talked a lot about the protests at the campuses. Trump said, tweeted 12 hours ago, professional anarchists, thugs, and paid protesters are proving the point of the millions of people who voted to make America great again! Exclamation point.
I wish somebody would follow the money on that and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Unpaid protesters.
Well, you know what? And
because how did all these people get to the campus at the same time?
I know.
Was it organized through social media? Okay.
That can happen.
But who's going to pay for transportation, the signs, the gasoline they use to start fires, whatever?
Yeah.
Where does that all come from?
Well, and you know what? And the campus thing, they might have had some notice because I guess they tell people when speakers are. But, I mean, someone has to bring awareness to this.
The other thing, too, is how many of those people were actually students at the university?
Yeah, and I think the real violent ones probably weren't.
Yeah. And
most of the students just want to – this is what we do now. Instead of, trying to stop it, we just get out our camera phones and videotape the whole thing. But I will say this: when he put out the executive order for the immigration ban, the travel ban, it was very fast that the protest happened. Did you notice that? It was like a Saturday.
Yeah.
And like he puts it out, and like an hour later, everyone's protesting at airports.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what were you just like sitting around like, man, hope he does something so I can protest today?
And it's it's not cheap to park at the airport. It's expensive.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like, it was very strange to me how quickly that all came about.
Yeah.
And how it's like, really, you have nothing better to do? You just wait. Are you waiting around to it just seemed, it was very strange to me. I understand protests can happen, but it was like literally like an hour.
Yeah.
After he made that.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, something's weird about this. Okay. So that was Trump's latest tweet 12 hours ago. He also said, meeting with biggest business leaders this morning. Good jobs are coming back to the U.S. Healthcare and tax bills are being crafted now.
Jack Welch, former CEO of General Electric, said it was the best type of meeting. That meeting was the best type of meeting he's ever been to.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and it's because Trump is pro-business. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one thing you have to give Trump credit for sure, is he's much friendlier to the business community. There's no doubt about it. He's not, the left vilifies the business community. Yeah, they vilify the business community worse than anything else. I mean, with Betsy DeVos for education secretary, I believe it was Bernie Sanders, asked her, said, do you think you would have gotten this appointment if you had not donated millions of dollars to Republicans and weren't so rich and all this stuff? And it's like,
I'm not surprised. What was her answer? Do you remember?
Well, she said, no, I would still get it. The reason why she's getting it is because she has been a very big advocate for school choice. And that's why the left hates her, because they don't want school choice. They don't want to give up that monopoly, and that's definitely a giant monopoly. All right, one more tweet. How about one more?
One more.
All right, here we go.
Stand by.
Oh man, but there's two. Okay, two more.
Two more. Okay.
Okay, it's one. Thank you to Prime Minister of Australia for telling the truth about our very civil conversation that fake news media lied about. Very nice. Then he says Iran is playing with fire. They don't appreciate how kind, put kind in quotation marks, how kind President Obama was to them. Not me, he says. I actually kind of like that. This whole idea of appeasing our enemies is just ridiculous. But in terms of the conversation he had with the Prime Minister and everything, what is with all the leaks? Have you noted? There have been, everything Trump has done, like in the White House, has been leaked.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
Well,
sometimes I think he's the one leaking.
That I was just going to say, you don't know if they're leaky leaks or planned leaks.
Yeah, because it's very weird. I've never seen anything like it. There's something not right about all the leaks. Just like there's something not right about all the protests. There's something, I smell a rat. I don't know whose rat it is and exactly where the smell is coming from, but I smell it. It's there somewhere. All right, that was the Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update.
I'm a tweet with a bird in a deodorant cage. Tweet is my name, but I don't know my age. I don't have to worry, and that is that. I'm safe in here from that old putty cat.
This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee, and we will be right back.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime. Your voice of truth in a world of fake news. Beyond Reason Radio continues right now.
This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. If you missed any of the show, make sure to check the podcast of the show, especially the first hour. The first hour, I got in a little bit of a rant. I talked about how we should respond to hate, because there is a movement on our side, on both sides, but it's on our side too, that we must fight fire with fire, that if they hate us, we must hate them 10 times more, that if they throw punches, we must throw bigger punches. And I talked about how that is not courageous. They want to make you believe that's some courageous thing. It's not courage. That is not going to solve anything. And how fighting fire with fire can sometimes just create more fire. So there we go. I also went into a bunch of rants I'm very sorry for my ranting mood today. I hope nobody's too upset about my ranting mood. I actually have a big headache and not feeling too well, so that might be a reason why. I can't let the headache control me, though, Tom Benson. I'm letting the headache control me. Can't let it do that.
It's easier said than done, young man. Sometimes you just don't feel right. Look at your diet. What are you eating too much of?
I don't know. I mean, I had McGriddle for lunch with some French fries.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all good stuff.
But
I'm not going to say anything negative.
No, it's not. It's not good.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, I mean, I had a. Everyone gave me weird looks too when I ordered it at the McDonald's because I had a sausage, egg and cheese McGriddle, and then I had a large fry with the sausage, egg and cheese McGriddle because you can do that now.
Sure.
At McDonald's, you can get breakfast anytime, and they looked at me like I was. I don't know, like I was crazy. Like,
Beyond Reason.
Yeah, it was like, you must be Michael Yaffee because this is Beyond Reason. So, yeah, I don't know. But, I mean, I didn't even get into the rant. I want to rant. I need to rant about Obamacare because it has come out this week. There was a Republican meeting in Philadelphia with all of these Republican leaders. And they want to change the labeling of repeal and replace. And what the new thing is now that we must do, instead of repeal and replace, is repair. There were some parts of Obamacare okay. So what we have to do, because we don't want to offend the other side, we don't want to lose any of the other side, we have to just repair it. Like it's a flat tire, and we just have to change the tire. I mean, I'd rather get a whole new car, a better car, a car that goes faster. Am I the only one? Am I the only one here? But nope, they're saying we have to repair it. Did I not predict this, by the way? Have I not been saying this for like weeks? That this is what was going to happen. That I was so terrified that they were going to, and it's coming true. It looks like that they were going to cave on this. That they were going to cave on this because they don't want to offend anyone out there, and they all want this socialized government control medicine. Why we want that, I have no idea. Trust me, I've heard all the arguments for it. I don't want it. The other thing I wanted to rant about is this whole movement against Betsy DeVos for Education Secretary. And to me, it's actually more ironic because what the Democrats are doing now, and the Republicans are finally starting to push this through and everything. But what they're doing now is they're just boycotting these confirmation hearings. They're just trying to delay the confirmation hearings. And there's a couple of Republicans now who don't want to vote for Betsy DeVos. And when you look at why they don't want to vote for Betsy DeVos, their exact reason is because she's pro-school choice. That's the point. We want to get rid of the monopoly. When Republicans are against pro-school choice, I mean,
what states are they from? Do you know?
Maine and Alaska. Now, there was an article out there that both of those Republicans received more from the NEA, the Teachers Association, than any other Republicans. But someone did point out to me, and it was true, that the money they are receiving is very, very little in the big scheme of things. Mm-hmm. So, like, one of them, McCollins, is one of them. She received a lot of money from them, but it was like less than 1% of the amount of money she received last year. So to say that they're just kind of accepting a bribe might be going a little too far. But what that does show is that she is probably pro-student. If they're willing to give her any money, more money than any other Republican, then it shows that they probably like her, because she probably has stances like that one where she's against school choice. So how about we vote her out in the next election? How about we do that? I mean, I don't live in Maine. I don't know if we have any audience members in Maine. We have one audience member in Illinois, apparently, but not in Maine. Can we vote? Can we vote that senator out? I'm just saying. So I had to rant about that as well. They're doing this with all of Trump's cabinet picks. And I remember everybody lectured me and lectured Republicans because Republicans were the party of no. Remember that? We had to hear that for 8 years, that the Republicans were obstructing Obama, that they were the party of no, even though Obama's cabinet picks went through pretty quickly every time. The Republicans did not do this to Obama.
The Republicans were obstructionists. The Democrats are exercising their patriotic duty.
Oh, is that it?
That's it.
Oh, okay. It's not just usual politics that's happened in this country probably since its founding. Yeah. It's they're patriotic now.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, man. Oh, that just changes everything. That's just so much better.
They're being the mainstream. That's another famous thing. They like to say. If they're against somebody, they say, because he's not in the mainstream. He's far from the mainstream.
Well, the mainstream isn't working.
The mainstream elected Trump president.
Yeah, exactly.
Not Clinton.
Exactly. But I just remember hearing that we were the party of no. And that always made me laugh, too, because it was like, they were saying, Obama, Obama always wanted to work with Republicans. He always wanted to compromise. It was those evil Republicans saying no. Like, really? It's usually both sides here that were saying no because they couldn't come to an agreement because their ideologies are too different. This was Beyond Reason Radio. I hope the show wasn't too Beyond Reason for you. And make sure if you missed any of the show that you check out the podcast at BeyondReasonRadio.com or the Beyond Reason Radio app, and it'll be on my Facebook as well. You can send me a friend request on Facebook as well. Remember, don't fight evil with evil. As the Bible says, don't repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Take that with you for the weekend, and I'll catch you guys next week.